Mộc Văn xin kính chào quý vị và xin chào mừng quý vị đến với chương trình In Depth của đài truyền hình SBTN Úc Châu. Thưa quý vị, In Depth là chương trình chính trị chuyên sâu, phỏng vấn chính trị gia, các nhà hoạt động cộng đồng, các chủ đề liên quan đến đời sống và những cái tác động lớn đến với đời sống của người Việt tại Úc Châu. Chúng tôi có cơ hội nói chuyện với các nhân vật có tên tuổi, có ảnh hưởng trong cộng đồng và đời sống. Thưa quý vị, hôm nay chúng tôi rất là vinh hạnh được tiếp ông Kelly, dân biểu tự do khu vực Hills tại Sydney. Thank you very much for coming and coming today, Kelly. Let's talk about the Monday night, the nightmare in Canberra. Were you prepared?
Look, it was certainly one of those things that came a little bit out of the blue. But I think firstly it's important to understand how our system of government works and why these things occur. We have a Westminster system of government. Unlike America where they elect a president, we elect members to both the Senate and the House of Representatives. And each one of those that get elected for the Liberal Party or whether it's the Labor Party, they get the chance to say who will be Prime Minister. So it's not a direct election for our Prime Minister, it's election for the local members who then have the vote. So in our system of government, the Prime Minister only governs as long as he has the majority of the party room. It's one of those checks and balances that we have in our system that ensures no one person can ever have too much power. But then again, it's one of those systems that can lead to a frequent change of Prime Minister.
So we may call it Westminster system. Modeling from the British system.
Yeah, it's modelled from the British system, and the whole idea of our Westminster system of government, which has proved successful over many, many years, is that no one person is able to have too much power. That's the beauty of the system. That's why it's worked so successfully. But the downside is that we have recently, as we've seen, a frequent change of Prime Minister.
So people are still talking about Tony Abbott and his government and the new Prime Minister, and they are still wondering, why do we need to overthrow an unpopularly elected government?
Look, that's a very good question. Tony Abbott, when he came in as Prime Minister, had an enormously difficult job to do. He inherited a budget that was $40 billion in deficit. He inherited a debt approaching $300 billion. Every portfolio was in chaos and a mess. He had a very difficult job to do. And when you are telling people the government can no longer afford to do things, we have to cut government expenditure back, people don't like it. It's very easy for government to give people things, but when you say we can no longer afford it, it becomes difficult and makes you in the short term unpopular. But if we look at Tony Abbott's 2 years of what he achieved, he's really done some remarkable achievements. You look what he's done at getting rid of the carbon tax. People said he wouldn't and couldn't get rid of the carbon tax. He successfully got rid of the carbon tax. He said he would put the people smugglers out of business and make sure it was the United Nations that selected the migrants that came to this country as refugees, not the people smugglers. They said he couldn't do that, and he did that. He's created 300,000 new jobs in our country, 300,000 in those 2-year period. We've got the free trade agreements with both China, Japan and South Korea. Enormous achievements. But unfortunately, because some hard decisions had to be made, the polling wasn't where we would have liked to be, and the majority of our party room decided that we should have a change.
And then everybody has to respect it.
Yes. Look,
the party.
Yes, the way it works in Canberra, there's 91 members of the Liberal Party. We had 90 of them voting on the night. It was 54 to 44 in favour of Malcolm Turnbull. So therefore, Mr. Turnbull becomes the new Prime Minister of Australia.
Yes, and I mean, do we need, or do you think Tony Abbott deserves a full term to prove his performance, his worth?
Look, personally, and I made this publicly before the vote, I supported our Prime Minister. I believe he'd done a very good job. I believe that he deserved the opportunity to go to the public at the next election and have the public vote on his term of government. Unfortunately, the majority of my colleagues in Canberra decided differently. So look, I'm a loyalist. I support what the party room says. The party room's decided that Mr. Turnbull will be Prime Minister, and I'm supportive of that now.
So when we are talking about party room's majority, so we may talk about one vote majority or 20 or 10 votes majority. So one vote also means majority, isn't it?
Exactly right. You only need one to get you the majority. In fact, when Mr. Abbott became leader of the opposition, he actually won by one single vote. That was now going back in 2009, so he did a fantastic job as opposition leader. He's done a wonderful job and achieved a lot of great things for this country in his 2 years. I'm sad to see him go, and I know many other people are. But look, the caravan rolls on. Mr. Turnbull's now our Prime Minister, and we have a maximum period of about 12 months until the next election.
Yes. Now, you are one of the loyalists to Tony Abbott, and with a still very strong views to Abbott. So what do you think the new Prime Minister, Malcolm Turnbull, has to do to unite the party and
Look,
I think
over? Over time, the party will come together because we realise that the main threat to this country is the election of Bill Shorten and his mates in the union that run the Labor Party at the moment. We realise the threat and the danger to the prosperity of our nation. And that is what will unite our party. The fear that we could have someone like Mr. Shorten with his union mates in charge of our country, that is the thought that will unite everyone in the Liberal Party.
Thưa quý vị, Mộc Văn đang hân hạnh nói chuyện với ông Craig Kelly, dân biểu tự do liên bang khu vực Hills, và chúng tôi đang trao đổi về tại sao ông Tony Abbott bị lật đổ tối thứ Hai, ngày 14 tháng 9, và Đảng Tự do đang đối diện với những cái chủ đề gì, những cái khó khăn hay là những cái thuận lợi nào. Và chúng tôi đang nói về cái cách hoạt động của hệ thống dân chủ tại Úc Châu dựa trên hệ thống Westminster của Anh Quốc trước đây và cũng đang xài tới bây giờ. Yes, and Craig Kelly, now the new Prime Minister and then the new cabinet. So does it necessarily represent a change of policies to the country?
Well, so far on the policy, so far we've seen very little change from Prime Minister Turnbull. He's announced on the issue of gay marriage that he would not change the policy. We'll have a plebiscite. So at the next election, if the coalition is successful, there will be a plebiscite or referendum in the subsequent term. If the Labor Party is elected, they will ram through the legislation to legalise same-sex marriage. Mr. Turnbull also announced on the renewable energy target that what the Labor Party proposed, a 50% renewable energy target, something completely uncosted that could cost this country $60 billion, that he's not going to go down that track, but we will have significant reductions in our emission targets. We will take to Paris, the conference in Paris, and they will be equal or equivalent to most of our major trading partners.
Yes, and we also read in the press about the Liberal marginal seats in Sydney and elsewhere in the country, and some of them may say or may think whatever happens in Canberra, it's the re-election that counts. So there are higher chance or better chance of them re-elected at the next election if Turnbull is in Prime Ministership. So do you agree with that?
Look, I think that's something that time will tell. We still have another 12 months to go to the election. We have to get out there as local members. We have to explain clearly what our policies are. We have to explain clearly the dangers of allowing the Labor Party back into government after the mess that they made previously. If we do that successfully, I believe every single member has a very good chance of being re-elected.
Yes, and if you could have an advice, some advice to Tony Abbott, what that would be?
Look, Tony's done a wonderful job. He will go down in our history as a hero in the Liberal Party, someone that was enormously successful, that took on the very, very hard decisions and did a wonderful job for our country. I'm sure that Tony will make a considerable contribution to public life in the years to come.
Yes, and thưa quý vị, chúng tôi cũng vừa hỏi ông Craig Kelly về cảm nghĩ của ông dành cho Tony Abbott, vì hiện giờ là cựu đã trở thành một người gọi là cựu thủ tướng rồi. Thì ông Craig Kelly có nói đến những cái thành quả, những cái đóng góp rất là lớn lao của Tony Abbott cho nước Úc, và ông hy vọng rằng là những người Úc sẽ nhớ ghi nhận những cái đóng góp, những cái thành quả đó của ông Tony Abbott. Yes, and I believe that Tony Abbott is your sporting buddy. Because you used to be formerly you were a rugby player.
Yes.
So that's why you like a very active, energetic Prime Minister, and Tony Abbott fits in that mold.
He was something quite remarkable. Just a very quick story. One night we were coming back from the state of origin, and he was riding his bike.
Yes.
From his office in Parliament House back to where he was staying. In the middle of the night, 11:30 at night, on a push bike, riding with his security behind him. I think that happens in no other country in the world where we see a Prime Minister out in the middle of the night riding his push bike. But that's the type of person that Tony Abbott was, someone that physical fitness and health was very, very important to him.
Yes, and now next 3 weeks you are back with your constituents. How would you, do you have any like stories to tell them, and how would you?
Look, I have to admit there are a lot of people that are disappointed about the change. A lot of people are very upset about it. I'll be out explaining to them that I supported the Prime Minister till the very end, and although they may be disappointed, I hope that they regroup, because we have to have, as a party, 110% focus on ensuring that we win the next election.
Yes, and Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull guarantees that he will stay in full term in order to organize to hold an election. So we still have 12 months to go, isn't it? So back at your electorate, and so what you are going to do is to explain to your people is the task of uniting behind the leaders, the new leaders behind the party, in order to win the next election.
Also, I'll be explaining what the government is trying to do. We're trying to explain how we're trying to create opportunities for small businesses especially to get in there and create jobs. We'll be explaining the importance of the free trade agreement with China, Japan and South Korea, how this will create opportunities for Australian companies to get out there and export to those countries, and how that will create jobs. I'll try to explain the importance of the government not continuing to borrow money, that we have to eventually balance the budget, and that will take hard decisions, and that will leave people with many people with a few dollars less in their pocket. But I'll be trying to explain that this is something we have to do for the future of our nation, because we simply cannot continue the way we are going, continue to borrow money, because all that means that future generations, our children and our grandchildren, will sometimes have to pay it back if we cannot live within our means as a government.
Dạ, thưa quý vị, vừa rồi chúng tôi có nói chuyện về trong 3 tuần tới thì ông Craig Kelly sẽ tiếp xúc với đơn vị cử tri tại vùng của ông, và ông biết là cái nhiệm vụ quan trọng hàng đầu của ông là sẽ giải thích các chính sách của chính phủ, tạo công ăn việc làm, thông qua những cái hiệp định mậu dịch tự do, và làm sao để mà giữ chính phủ tiếp tục là chính phủ của tự do, để không quay trở lại cái thời kỳ thâm thùng ngân sách và chi tiêu quá lố như thời lao động trước đây. Yes, so a very personal note, how did you get through the Monday night?
Look,
with a lot of whiskey?
After the vote, I went back to...
it was very late then, yeah.
Yes, I went back to the Prime Minister's office with the Prime Minister. We had a few drinks back in his office, a few drinks with his staff. Everyone was a little bit disappointed as expected, but look, this is part of our democracy. Mr Turnbull's now the Prime Minister. He has my full support, and we're looking at going forward to continue ensuring that we have good policies to make sure that our country stays in good hands.
Very good. Please share with us some of your activities in the forward planning calendar. So next few weeks, in terms of community liaison and meetings.
Yes, I'll be out and about in all the areas of the electorate. Also making a trip down to Melbourne, part of the Defence Committee. I'm also on the Law Enforcement Committee, which I'm chairman of. We're currently doing an inquiry into crystal methamphetamines, or ice. We're going on a tour of the hospitals, St Vincent's Hospital in Sydney and Melbourne, because the ice epidemic, the drug, is having enormous adverse effects throughout the country. And we're visiting the hospitals to see some of the problems that the hospitals and difficulties the hospitals have when they take the drug addicts into the hospital. So that will be one or 2 days. Plus, I'll be out and about. I'll be talking to a lot of the small businesses. I'll be visiting the schools. There'll be certainly plenty to keep me busy in the next 3 weeks.
Excellent. We will check you out next week, and we hope you have good health and good rest, and have a very fruitful community trips and troops, visiting the troops.
Thank you. Appreciate it very much. Thank you. Thank you.
Thưa quý vị, vừa rồi là cuộc phỏng vấn giữa Mộng Văn với dân biểu Craig Kelly, đơn vị Hughes tại Sydney. Chúng tôi nói về các chủ đề trên chính trường Úc Châu trong tuần qua, và chúng tôi cũng hỏi ông về những cái công việc ông sẽ làm trong 3 tuần tới. Để quý vị có dịp so sánh cái quan điểm của ông Craig Kelly, thì chúng tôi cũng có một cuộc phỏng vấn với một dân biểu lao động, và chúng tôi sẽ trình bày cho quý vị cùng với quan điểm của ông Craig Kelly. Craig, thank you very much for seeing us today, and hope you have good health and very fruitful days ahead.
No, it's always a great pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thưa quý vị, vừa rồi là cuộc phỏng vấn in-depth của đài SBTN Úc Châu do Mộng Văn thực hiện với dân biểu Craig Kelly. Xin kính chào quý vị, cảm ơn quý vị đã theo dõi, và xin tạm biệt, xin hẹn gặp lại.